Shorabashente! It's time for another random piecemeal episode where I do a bunch of random stuff. Today, first thing you'll notice is that I've figured out a pattern for, producing these, rock spires. And we're gonna focus on doing that. So, materials. What materials do we need? We already have rib fill, but we need descend Tiana. We need sand blend 1. Ooh. Always make sure to add a new material when you go changing that, because we need, descend Tiana. We need where is it? Come on. We need rib rock. And we also need ground. We need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 textures for this, at least for the present moment. So, the next thing you'll notice is that I heavily had to remodel these a bit. There is now this middle band, basically, where there wasn't one before. So if I go along here and I select all of these, make sure that I'm hitting the right buttons. This is going to be set to our sand blend texture. If I go back to material, yeah, it's kind of hard to see that, especially. But if we go on the inside, yeah, you'll see the sand is all upside down, which is not how we want it. We're going to go into our UV image editor. And we're just going to rotate it around. I'm going to get in close here to ensure that everything is lining up right. And there's a couple ways we can do that ensuring, and one of them is being fidgety with our thing to make sure it's lined up right, or I could go scale and shrink it down just a smidge. Yeah, that works. Oh, what about the rest of this? Well, the bottom of this is going to be the G-Send Tiana texture. Just going to assign that, and we're going to make that a cylinder projection. Nope, we're going to make that a Nope, we're going to make that a project from view bound. Nope, project from view bounds. Yeah, there we go. And then I'm just going to repeat the process on these faces here. Project from view bounds. And zip back. Project from view bounds. There, now we don't have any stretchy textures anywhere. Now, these textures are still set to rib fill here. And, you know, that's not actually a bad thing, having the rib fill texture here. In fact, we're going to leave that as the rib fill texture. And on the same side, we're going to do the same thing. Gonna go project from view, rib fill. Perfect. And then the top, of course, is going to be rib fill as well. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, and then we'll just zip upwards, and I'm going to set to back face culling so we can see what we're doing. View, project from view. That doesn't quite look so right. Let's twist it a bit. Project from view bounds. Ooh, that's better. Yeah. Okay. Next step, we're going to select all these faces on the side here. We're going to set this to ground. And then, project from view bounds. And then we're just going to do the same trick on the other side. Make sure we're not selecting the rib face. Round, assign, project from view bounds. And now we've basically you know, we have basically retextured 90% of this thing already. Nah, and that's pretty easy once we figure out the pattern. It took me a while to figure out the pattern of how to even remodel it together. But anyway, so yeah, next step is we're just gonna end up. We're just gonna select our faces. We're just gonna select this whole thing in mass. Now, you might be wondering, why am I not just doing this in batches? Well, first things first, we gotta make sure that what we're doing is gonna have the right texture. There are easier ways to do it in batches, yes, but I want to make sure that I'm doing it in getting everything that needs to be the right texture done at the right time. And then we can go in and adjust specific errors in the UV modeling and meshing later. And then this is going to be our rib rock. And once again, I'm going to project from view. You'll notice that it gets all kind of stretchy around the back. Yeah, that's not so good. Project from view again. There we go. That's a bit more straightened out. Of course, we're not going to leave it just like that. Nope, nope, nope. We're going to have to go in. Now, another thing to note is I don't have to really go in and do all the UV texturing up top. We can just leave it as it is. It's not going to really matter much. But make sure that we've got it all lined up. Right, it's this one that's gotta... that one that's gotta line up. There we go. Yeah, I'm just going through, selecting our faces, just to make sure everything is even. I don't have to do it, but I like to ensure that I'm doing it evenly. Is it a bit perfectionist of me and a bit repetitive and monotonous? Sure. But, you know... Ooh, that mirrors nicely. Ooh, and that lines up nicely, too. Ooh, yes, yes, yes. And then we have this bit here that's a little stretchy in the middle. You know, I could leave it. There are a few places where we can get away with leaving it, but, you know. So I'm going to do project from view. I'm going to... you know, that works pretty well. Only issue is now we have... yeah, we have some slight seamage on that side. Well, there is a very easy way to remedy that as soon as I can find where that is. Ah, here we go. Object, edit mode. I'm going to take those same planes that we just selected, and I'm gonna smooth their vertexes slightly. Yeah. And then I'm gonna push it in ever so slightly. Yep, yep, yep. Object mode. And now, actually, yeah, hold on. I'm gonna go back in. Object, edit mode. I'm gonna just select these faces that we just screwed up slightly. And instead of leaving them as rib rock, I'm going to set them to rib fill. And there you'll see, it now looks a little scraped up, and the path is a little weird there. Well, what am I going to do? I'm just going to duplicate what we did over here. I'm going to take a rock, lift it up, drag it over. Nope. RX. Let's get that twisted like that. Drag it out. Drag it sideways. And now this rock, if I extrude it Y ways, yeah, there we go. And then I move it back here. Now this rock is has fallen from the ceiling as well, and it is clearly blocking the path on this particular side. And again, I'm going to do Control A, and I'm going to hit S for scale on the keyboard. I'm going to go Object Edit Mode. I'm going to go recalculate the faces. Hey, look at that. We didn't get any negative scale on that time. And now to help sell the illusion, I'm going to grab this face, this face, this face, this face. Yeah, I'm just going to select a bunch of faces here. And then I'm going to add our scratchy ground texture. I'm going to assign. Before I go doing that, I'm going to make sure we've got an angled path here. I'm going to go into our tools, and our knives, and select the line here. Nope, come on. Come on. Come on. Don't be weird. Don't be weird. Yeah, the knife tool sometimes is still being weird. You just have to work with what you're getting with it. Come on. Let me select the line. Let me select the line. There we go. There we go. Now, I can now select these planes and return it to our ground texture. Yep. And now I can go and select our scratchy ground bits here, and I will project from view bounds, image editor, and I'm going to twist it and give it a directional movement. When we look at this rock, ooh, I might have squished that flat a bit too much. Yep. Go back to the rock, object, edit mode, and I'm gonna grab these bits of textured plane here. I'm just gonna drag those down, drag those out, drag them back, drag them down. And I'll select these planes and stretch them out a bit more. There we go. And now we have a rock that hopefully when we come into the age, nope, I still gotta go in object edit mode. And I'm gonna have to just pull it back like that. Perfect. Oop. We did miss a plane here. Object edit mode. I'm going to hit this plane. I'm going to hit project from view. Yeah, that's a little weird looking, but we'll live with it. Okay. So, this bit of the intro done. Yeah, let's go see how this looks in the age. So, welcome back to the age. The first thing you'll notice is that I did really retexture all of these support pillars, and I did remodel them quite a bit. Next thing to note is, well, in remodeling some of them, I raised up their heights by quite a lot, and I had to redo some of these rocks to be in different positions. Yeah. Overall, the initial idea is still the same. You come along these paths, you walk along them. There's some There's some major damage onto this pillar where this rock, collapsed in. And to match our other fissures, I've retextured it in here so that it is appropriately lava rocky. Got some bumpy paths. Oop. And yep, this is a big old rock in our way. And you see how it kind of, it's an interesting side effect of how I was doing the texturing by default on these side rocks, that it looks like the rock has gone all, jaggedy right where it's cut into it right there. Which is a nice look, though it does repeat. And I will eventually come along and do more redo the texturing on these cave walls a bit. Well, that's a gap. Oh! Yeah, how am I going to do that with fireflies? The simple answer is, I'm not. I'm going to be putting in you'll notice I have another texture issue here. I'm going to put another rock along here somewhere, or put some debris around the edge there to try to nudge you along one particular side of this or another. Yeah, I'm going to end up putting a wood plank bridge across here, because we love our wood planks. But yeah, you'll see that this is a new island compared to ones that were here before. It's literally just a copy-paste flip horizontal of one of the other island bridges, but that's okay. We have enough of these now that are unique that I can probably mix and match everything I want to mix and match, and then customize it to taste around the surrounding area. You'll see the rock bits up there have continued forward a bit more. But yeah, the end goal of this whole area is basically going to be walking paths for fireflies. And if you can't make it by walking normally with, then, well, that'll be a thing that you have to reckon with, I guess. But yeah, so that's not bad. That's not bad at all. As you can see, I have made sure that you can get along all this without having to jump. Although I am running, you can do this while walking. Boom. Yeah, you just drop it down. Boom. Yep. Anyway, yeah. So, okay, that's it for this section. I wonder what we're doing next. What we're gonna be doing next is attempting a ladder. Now, there are a few places I can try and squeeze a ladder in. My main concern is this sloped floor on the bottom here. I may have to do some fancy jiggery once I get it going. So yeah, we are gonna start with making a ladder. How do we do that? We go add plasma and ladder. Here's a very important thing to note. Once you have placed a ladder, you have a very limited opportunity to mess with the ladder settings. You'll see that a new menu has opened up down here. This is important. You will see you have everything you need for a ladder. That is going to be your height, which is the amount of rungs you have. You have your width of your ladder, which is the width of the ladder region itself. You also have the rung height, how much height is between the ladders. This menu only appears when you first place the ladder. So if you want your ladder to be 10 rungs tall, this is the only chance you have to do it. Because as soon as you go and you move, yep, see, ladder region vanished. Okay, so 10 rungs. That might not be tall enough, but you know what? I'm going to work with it. So what exactly is a ladder region? It is a set of hotspots. It is a set of floor plates. It is a backing rung, and it gives you a little template, a little boxes where your hands and feet are going to go in the avatar animation. This is basically a visual shorthand for where your ladder is. The important parts are these boxes and the initial setup you give it. That is the important part. If you left it as 6 rungs and then you went and copy-pasted all this, you're just going to get the 6 rungs loop. You're not going to get a loop that has 10 ladder rungs. These boxes need that initial setup to say, this ladder is going to be 10 rungs tall. You do your avatar climb animation for 10 rungs. That is the important bit to note there. Now, like I said, there is a bit there's a box that's called the floor bit. This bit right here underneath the top box, and it's the bottom box. The top box, wherever you're putting it, needs to basically be generally in rough alignment with the floor that you are going to be, working on. If I twist it on rotation Z, there we go. Now if I pull this forward. Now, again, I think I might have misjudged things here. 10 rungs is definitely not tall enough for this. It's definitely not tall enough at all. So, I'm just going to delete that ladder that we just did. Instead, I'm going to place my little cursor down here on the ground, and now we're going to try that again. Add plasma ladder. And it remembered I had 10 rungs that time. So if we take a look at this, I'm going to set this to 15 rungs. Is that high enough? No, it's not high enough. Set that to 20. Oof, we're almost there. Let's set that to 23. Ooh, that could work, but I'm going to set it to 22. Yeah, 22. That will cover our height very nicely. It's a little off. It's clearly putting our floor region into another floor, but into the floors rather, but you know what, we can work with this. We can work with this. 22 rungs. Okay. So, as you can see, our floor box here is now way up higher than we want it to be. Let me twist it around, and let's see how it looks when I line this up with the edge here. That might work. That might work, but I'm not going to risk it exactly from there. Instead, I'm going to go to our floor object here, our second floor. I'm going to grab this plane, and I'm just going to drag it a bit outward. Yep. Make sure I grab this bit, and grab this bit, level, flatten that out. Okay. Object mode. Let's go back to our ladder. Ooh, nope. Yep. I'm gonna, instead of messing with the floor before I mess with the ladder, while I still have it all selected, I'm just gonna move where I want my ladder region to basically start at. And I'm gonna sink it into the floor a bit here. And then, yeah, I'm just going to make our floor object match the ladder height. Yep. Okay. So now if I go into the game and do the ladder, it's going to carry me up to the floor, and then it's going to stop me because the floor is in the way. I'm not going to be able to complete the loop. Yeah, I'm going to go into edit mode. I'm going to select our two faces here. I'm just going to... Oh. Yep. Okay. Yep. That's what I was afraid of. Nope. Wrong floor object. I want to delete this floor object. There we go. So, yeah. We're going to have to remake that floor that I made the other day. Whew, how annoying. But this is the art of age making. And in fact, while I'm thinking on it, I'm going to turn this ladder around, since we're going to have to remake it anyways. I want my ladder to... Hold on. There we go. I'm gonna want my ladder to be facing... Come on. You know what? Actually, that might work. Let's see here. Can I get this to line up with this thing? Can I get it to line up? Ooh, idea. Bring it over here. Aha. Aha. Aha, aha, aha. Aha, I am liking where this is going. Okay. Bring it out like so. Yeah, ha ha ha. There we go. If I bring this forward, bring it forward, and bring it down like so. Ha 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 ha. Yes. Okay. Now I can delete this floor. So now if I go into game and I climb this ladder, I will climb the ladder up to this point and then basically fall down because there's no nothing there to catch me. So how are we gonna do this? I'm gonna have to do this in a few okay, this is going to be tricky. This is going to be very tricky to do, but we're going to have to do this in multiple floor objects. So, first and foremost, we're going to create a cube. Yep. Who saw that coming? Yep. We're just going to squish a cube flat. We're going to... Nope. Grab it by the arrow, not the center point. Yep, there we go. Grab that. Grab that. Okay, we now have a cube. We have now a flat cube, flattened cube. Yep. Okay. And getting this roughly into position now. Let's see here. I'm going to want this to be roughly... Yep, I want this to be... Let's get this solid so I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to want this to roughly line up where our, our boxes. So, yep. Gonna pull this over here. Okay, now that I've got this roughly in position, I'm gonna go back to edit mode. I'm gonna select this plane. No. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tools and close down this menu a bit more. Then I'm gonna extrude the region outward. Yep, okay. Okay. Object mode. Let's twist it. And let's get this roughly lined up where we want where our ladder box ends. This is... There we go. Object, edit mode, and I'm going to come under here and I'm going to squish up the flooring a bit. Yeah, there we go. Then I'll come in here and I'll just grab it by the arrow, drag it out. Yeah, now it's got a slight curve to it because we're doing it at an angle. And that is alright. There we go. So now we have a floor here. Yeah. I may not be thinking this through again, but we shall see. Extrude out our flooring bit here. And I'm going to stop it roughly before that bit. I'm going to take this. Extrude the region out. Yep. I'm going to pull it forwards a bit. Give it a slight rotational angle. And And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to pull in this angle like so. And I'm just going to select these faces again and extrude the region out. Pull it forwards. It's doing something weird with the window there. I'm not sure I like that. Let me pull it forwards. Okay. Now that's not so clipping. Although I might need to pull it back a bit more. Yeah, okay. There we go. And then I'm going to come in with this line here, and I'm going to pull it inwards. I'm going to pull this one inwards. I'm going to pull this one outwards, and then inwards. There we go. And I'm just going to give this a bit of a chevron shape to it. Okay. I think that's good enough for a test. So I'm going to go material. I'm going to name this second floor. I'm going to give this a plasma object. I'm going to set it to the pod. And I'm going to give it collision, triangle mesh, terrain. I'm not going to texture it yet. I'm not ready for texturing it. We're going to texture it once we have everything roughly modeled. But, okay, I think we are ready for a test run. Save, export, and launch. Now, again, we don't see where it is, but... Hey, lucky, lucky. We are now climbing on air. And again, yeah, that's basically it for ladders. Once we have it all put into place... Oh... We are walking on an invisible floor. And then, look at that. Whee! Climbing down, climbing down. Ladders! We have a working ladder now. Yep. And I definitely was not thinking through that first flooring. You gotta build the floor around the ladder. Or, well, technically you can build your ladder axis before you build the ladder, but you have to really think through about what you're doing. The shape of this whole pod is very non-conductive to traditional ladders. I mean, there's a reason that they built the pod ladders the way they did originally. And, yeah. Okay, let's keep going with that. So, the thing with ladders is you need to have a gap for them. You need to have a gap for the ladder to actually, to come through. So, you'll see here, I am extruding out a gap. And then you'll see here, I'm extruding out a gap. Now, this doesn't need to be this wide, but it does need to be wide enough for the avatar to fit through. And, you know, that is the important bit. Extrude region. Now, I'm going to come and I'm going to hit this point, and I'm just going to drag it to match the edge of the metal. Oop, did I mess with the height on that? I think I did. No, I don't want to mess with the height. I just want to drag it out like that. There we go. And then I'll come over here with this plate, and I'll do the same thing, and I'll just drag it to the floor, like so. There we go. Now we have a second ladder. We have another floor. We have a floor! Woohoo! Now, again, you might be wondering, how am I gonna close up the floor on this side? Because now I've got that gap in there. Come on. Come on. You know the trick. Select. Select. Make edge face. Select. Oh. Select. 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 Make edge face. Select. 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 Come on. Select all the edges. Select all the edges. There we go. Make edge face. Then select the face. Select the face. Oh, and would you look at that? Now we have a floor piece. And now if I go and select those, select the floor faces, and if I extrude the region, well, lucky, lucky. Make sure to seal your gaps. Make edge face. Now, I'm going to recalculate all of our faces. Make sure they are all pointing outwards. And they are, which is good. Perfect. And now we have a hole for our ladder region. And then I'm just going to come over here. Select this edge. Make it line up. Perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. And then I'm just going to come in and squish this in again. So, yeah, that is making a ladder. We now have a ladder and a hole for us to climb through. Now, to actually give it some oomph, let's go material. I'm going to select our wood flooring. I'm just going to hit reset. It doesn't have to look pretty. This is temporary at best. Object mode. I'm going to go into tools. Make it smooth shading. Yeah. This doesn't have to look pretty. We're not doing it perfect. Now, how to indicate where our ladder is on the ground? Well, I have a go-to for this. While the expectation is that you will inevitably build a ladder model. You put little rungs in based on where these rung bits are, and as long as the top of it matches the bottom, it's gonna work just fine. But I have a more fun, visually wacky kind of ladder in mind. I've used this in the cathedral, and I'm probably going to use it in a couple other places because I just adore the idea of this. I'm going to create a plane, a very simple plane. I'm going to stretch it out a bit, lift it up. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, let's bring that over. Yep, we're just going to do a plain little plane. Yep, and make sure I got that lined up right. Now, what are we going to call this? We're going to call this fence ladder. And why fence ladder? We're going to create a new material. This is going to be fence ladder. We're going to go open our textures. We're going to do our PNGs. And, hold on. Let me make sure I find it first. Pod concept revisit. We're going to our little textures, PNGs. Now, the texture I'm looking for is from Agira. It is Islam Orange Mesh. You see what this is, right? This is one of those construction fences, little rubber construction fences. This is literally just meant to be a fence. There's nothing else to it. So, Islam. And Islam stands for Isle, Maine. Island, Maine. ISL, Island, Maine. And again, we're looking for orange mesh. We're looking for the island orange mesh. And then I'm gonna object, edit mode, you reset. And just so you know, just so you're clear, next to the mesh material button is this button, data. In here, you will want to hit double-sided on this one. Trust me, this is worth it. This is so worth it. So, I'm going to select, I'm going to select the pane, the edge that's overlapping, tools, extrude region, and I'm just dragging it downwards. You reset. We now have a little rubber bit. And if we continue doing this, if I, grab my edge, extrude it downward, and I just keep doing that. Extrude region, and it doesn't need to be perfect. If I have it in perfect alignment, you know what? In fact, it's a little better if it's not quite perfect because it's a little rubber mat. It's not gonna be perfectly, in alignment all the places. Extrude region, twist it the other way. Yeah, I'm just tickled pink with the idea of this ladder that we're climbing being made entirely out of oopsie. That went way too far down. Let me undo that. Extrude region. Make sure that's not. Okay, yep, that is actually clipping into the ground now. Pull that up. And then I'll just extrude it outward. And then, object edit mode, select all planes, and then I hit reset. Although, that looks a little weird here at the bottom, so I'm going back into edit mode. I'm going to select these 3 planes. And I'm just going to go project from view. And that just still looks a little weird. So I'm going to go into our UV image editor here, and I'm going to make sure I get that right. Let me find my texture here. Orange mesh. Yep, you see what's going on here, right? The corners are all lining up, but the rest of it isn't. Oh, I'm just gonna grab this point, make it line up. 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 And grab this point, and make it line up. Now, properties. Yep. And it's a little off-center, but, that's fine. That's just fine. Save. We're going to export and launch again. Now, again, this is the very, very simplest ladder that you can imagine. And I forgot to hit smooth shading on it. I did. I forgot to set it to... Oops. No. Yep. Smooth. There we go. There we go. Now it's smooth shading. Yeah. We have a ladder. We have a little visual indicator of a ladder. If we walk up to it, grab, 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 grab. It's not perfectly lining up right, and I mean, you know, it's a little ladder mesh. It's a rubber ladder mesh, but as far as a temporary little representation of a ladder goes, you know, it's not bad. In fact, I say it's pretty good. So yeah, a ladder, a floor, and yes, you can indeed fall, unless you set it to do it the right way, you can indeed unless you set up blockers around there, you can indeed fall through the floor. And again, the reason I set that to double-sided is so that it shows the texture on two sides. So if I left it one-sided, it would just, you know, it would just display as, it would display it as, you know, it would display it as just one-sided texture with a blank gap on the other side. But look at that. We have a ladder now. Grab, 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 grab. And again, this is my simplest go-to ladder. Easy visual for a ladder. Personally, you know, I think I might want to go a little more complex on this particular one. But, you know, it is what it is for this one. Look at this. Look at how easy that is. And yeah, your camera regions are going to need setting up once you do the ladder properly. But for a temporary, you know, for an initial tutorial ladder, this is, you know, this is as simple of a ladder as it gets. You know, we have it working. We have a floor. We have a book. We have a ladder. We have lava rocks. We have flooring. We've got a lot now. We're making some progress on this age, aren't we? Yeah. What next? Next is our mud. Yeah, I think it's time we deal with some mud. So, you'll notice here that along the ground here there is a slight texture seam where our two textures are blurring together. And, you know, there are a couple ways we could do that. We could try finicking with it. But, you know, the easiest way that I know to fix this is we're going to create a plane. Yep. We're just going to create a plane. And I'm not going to do anything but call this mud texture. And what is the mud texture going to do? Mud texture. Well, obviously, the mud texture is going to be our Pod 12 Gira cracked mud. We're looking for Pod 12 Gira. Come on, where is it? Pod 12 Gira cracked mud. Now go in here, object, edit mode, reset. Now by doing that, you'll notice a couple things. First is Blender's rendering a bunch of white space here and a bunch of black space here, but on here there's nothing there. In the original file, there's nothing there. Blender, there's a few settings for that, but by default, Blender does not like showing transparencies in its preview windows. Don't ask me how to do that yet. I still don't understand how to make it work. But anyway, the point here is that we are gonna basically we're just gonna use this as a way of covering up our our seam line here. And there are other textures we can do this with, sure. Yep. The main important bit here is to note is that we have this thing on a slope, basically. So, I'm going to go tools, and I'm going to subdivide it. I did that twice, and that's going to give me, it's going to give me those many squares, which is about what we're going to want. So, yeah, okay. So we're just going to start off by grabbing these squares. Just grabbing our squares here. Actually, I'm going to move the whole object down a bit. Make sure that it's kind of, where our plane lines are. And, that is, I'm going to start with our edges here, actually, first. I'm going to start with this edge. I'm just going to bring it down, and I'm going to try and roughly get this to, match the terrain that we have existing here. It's not going to be perfect, and in fact, the fact that it's not going to be perfect is actually kind of something that we're going to need to address. This is one of those cases where we are actually going to need to get this reasonably perfect, or at least as close to perfect as we can. So, you'll notice that there's a bit of overlap here. This is essentially, what we're going to end up doing on all of this. We're just going to have to take our mud texture and make sure that it, it spreads across here in a way that, is hopefully going to look natural when it comes to, all of our lines. Now, now I'm probably doing this the very hard way. And by probably, I mean I'm definitely doing this the hard way, but this is the beginner technique for this. I'm going to show you a more advanced one in a bit. Yeah. Just going to lift this up just enough so that it's not clipping right there. I'm going to grab this point, I'm going to move it down. I'll grab this point and I'll move it down. There we go. Now, these bits with the white, those don't need to be exactly matching. I'm doing it this way. And in fact, they can probably go under the ground by a bit. But yeah, this is just the beginner technique version of this. And obviously, when I say this is the beginner technique version of this, I mean this is probably the absolute worst way to do this in terms of finicking and managing this kind of texture alteration. But, yes, this is what we're starting with, just so you get the general idea of what we're doing here. And, yeah, that's good enough for a demonstration. Save, let's export. Now, if you're doing this for, flat walls, you can probably do this very, very easily for things like very flat terrain, walls, solid structures, man-made kind of things. But hey, look at that. Now our seam line is covered up. Our avatar's feet may go through it slightly, but our seam line is indeed covered up in this area. And ain't that handy? Let's take a look at that. Yeah. That's believable, I think. Wouldn't you say? But yeah, that's a little thin and a little small for what we want. So, what other ways are there to do this? Well, the next easiest way to do this is to just, select a bunch of our planes here and then go through and duplicate them, Because if I do that right now and if I hit duplicate and I lift those up, then we got a perfect copy of our terrain. But that's tedious, and it also adds to our vertex count on this particular object. So no, we're not going to be doing that. Instead, yeah. So we're you can probably guess where I'm going with this, and that is, why am I deselecting planes when I have everything else selected? The answer, simply, I delete it. That's it. I just deleted it. And now, we go into our object mode here. We now have a completely different section of terrain here that is pretty much perfectly matching to, well, it's perfectly matching to what we originally had. And now the tricky part is going to be, making sure that it all lines up the same, basically, because I moved it by a significant amount, which is probably the dumbest idea in the history of dumb ideas. But, let's go to our solids. Actually, let's go to our wireframes. There we go. Now we can match this up a whole lot more easily. So move this sideways. So, let's see. We've got materials. Oh, we've got all of these materials on here, which we actually do not need to have, because we're just going to go to our mud texture. Yep, and that looks completely bogus. But, you know what? Object, edit mode, make sure we got all of our planes, all of our planes selected. I'm going to reset it. Now, that doesn't look right either. That looks super not right. Go to our UV image editor. Yeah, that's not looking right at all. So, how are we going to do this? Well, the simplest answer is going to be... Actually, I'm going to delete that face. There we go. Let's go into this. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to grab this point. And I'm just going to drag it in like so. There we go. Now, there's a couple ways we can do this. I'm just going to go the easiest route and project from view. Yep. And that's just what I'm going to do on all these. I'm just going to come along. Project from view bounds. And now that's roughly going to line up. Right? Now, again, you're probably going to realize this is probably going to look very, like I said, this is probably going to look very weird. But that's generally the, that's the next easiest technique for doing roughed up terrain. I know that's a lot, and I mean a lot of work to get that to match up, but as you can see, beyond some slight ghosting tearing at the edges, which we can and will fix, I mean, this is actually looking very respectable for some dried mud along the shore, doesn't it? Yeah. And again, it's not perfect. We've got a whole lot of texture seamage going on there where things are not lining up properly, but that's generally the trick that we're going to be going for on this. We've got this mud, and we're going to be, we're going to be making it kind of line up better. We're going to be putting this mud in, and we're going to be, doing that. So, what we're going to do is we're just going to grab our vertex points on the UV editor. We're just going to, drag things to the edges and make sure that our texture here is appropriately meshing up with the edges. If I come into these planes, and we're just coming in here and we're just getting it all. Yep, we're just doing this process on everything, making sure everything roughly lines up right. Like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. It really probably shouldn't be perfect. But yeah, that's basically what we're going to be doing on all of this, is just making sure it all lines up right. Alright, I've gone through and I've done all the adjustments. And edge seam there aside, I think this works pretty well. Kind of covers up the sand blend in a few places. That's alright. It's a little stretchy in a few places too, but that is also alright. It's not perfect. I did the best I could, but it is pretty darn good. And yeah, that is how we set about doing a overlay texture. I have a feeling this corner is clipping into the ground a bit. Yep, I think that... Yep, that is indeed clipping into the ground. Well, I'll fix that later. But, yeah. It doesn't seem to be obviously floating in any way. It's matching the terrain very, very closely. Yeah. That looks very, very, dried up and muddy, doesn't it? Yeah, I'm happy with that. Alright, thanks for watching this video of random stuff. Shora B'Shemte. Thank you for watching.